Hey y'all, welcome to today's drum lesson. My name is Penny Larson and I am happy to have you with me today. Today we're going to be talking about bass drum foot technique. This is at least as deep a rabbit hole as hand technique. The bass drum pedal is at this point a pretty sophisticated piece of technology and engineering that there are many variations of, and there are many approaches to. I'm going to be running through my current pedal and technique, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about other techniques that I've used over time, just so you can get an idea of those. I will have a handout that'll be available down below in the doobly-doo. They're going to be very simple, basic exercises, and so you should be able to learn them just by me teaching them. But if you want to have a printout, that'll be available as a PDF. First, let's talk about just the simple technique of the bass drum pedal. When the bass drum pedal was designed, it strikes me that they intended you to put your heel on the heel plate and put your foot on the part that looks like a foot and move with your ankle. And I recommend that as your first technique. I'm going to bounce around between the exercises that are on the handout that's going to be down below. But let me just demonstrate. We're going to do a very simple eighth note beat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And I'm going to play all those same notes with the bass drum, doubling up with my hand. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do at first. Right hand and right foot together over and over again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so we can turn that into a beat really easily. I'm just going to add 2 and 4 on the snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we call that technique heel down because my heel stays down on the pedal. I almost never use that technique. It's a good starter technique just to kind of feel how the pedal works. But the reality is, for me at least, I can get a lot more volume and speed and control if I'm moving my foot around on the pedal. If you've seen any of my videos before, two things I want to discuss really quickly because I've talked about them before. I play in socks. Socks are a fairly common thing to play drums in. A lot of people play barefoot. A lot of people play Chuck Taylors and dance shoes and bowling shoes and diving shoes and just their shoes that they're wearing that day. I encourage you to experiment with footwear. You'll be surprised how different footwear can affect your the way the pedals feel to you. If you can play and feel equally good in any type of shoe, that's awesome. That gives you more power and more options. You never have to worry about, oh, am I going to have the right pair of shoes with me? But don't feel bad if you land on something and you decide, oh my God, this pair of Uggs or loafers or slippers or sandals or whatever is perfect and I'm going to use them all the time. Don't feel bad if that's the case. Don't feel like you have to justify your footwear. So that's that. Experiment, experiment, experiment. It's kind of like stick size, but even more kind of more deep of a well because nobody talks about it, right? You can't go to the drum store and buy this type of drum shoe and that type of drum shoe. So experiment. The other thing is I tend to play with my foot way back on the pedal. Generally, the way I describe it is that my arch is over the hinge of the pedal. At the moment, I'm using Gibraltar direct drive pedals. Their construction makes me come back even a little bit farther on the pedal that I feel like almost the ball of my foot is on the hinge sometimes. Again, I didn't do this on purpose. I noticed this after a very long time of playing, and I kind of figured out, oh, think about the bass drum pedal, right, as a piece of machinery. If this is the hinge, right, your mechanical advantage for speed is back here, and for power is up here. So I am not a shrinking violet. I have plenty of muscle and fat in my thigh and my leg, and so I have plenty of power. I don't need a mechanical advantage for power, okay? For me, the mechanical advantage that I want is speed, and so I play towards the back. There are foot pedals with longer footboards, which give even more of that advantage. I've tried those, I don't like those, so your mileage may vary on whether those work for you. I like a more typical or short board pedal. Finally, whether we're gonna bury the beater or let the beater bounce off the head. So burying the beater, like the name sounds, means I'm gonna hit the beater and leave it in the head. And that gives a punchy sound. To me, it makes the bass drum sound a little bit, it's just not the sound I want. I could say a lot of the sound has a teeny bit less air. It sounds a teeny bit less like a drum to me, which is a hilarious thing to say because I muffle my bass drum pretty heavily. But there it is. So I play letting the beater bounce off the head, like so. And I just gave you a spoiler for the first technique we're going to talk about. This is a leg stroke. I'm going to lift my leg up and drop it. And I'm keeping my foot relaxed so that when I pick up my foot, my toes are dangling, right? And then when I drop my heel, right, my foot is still relaxed so the beater can come off the head. Okay? That works for me up to fairly quick bass drum notes. Certainly most 8th note patterns and even some 16th note patterns, I'll just be using a leg stroke. Sometimes I need to do multiple strokes. And there's a few different techniques we can talk about. Kind of I think the most famous one at this point is called toe heel or ball heel or heel toe. And it starts with your heel down. So like you were going to do a heel down motion, you're going to make a stroke with your toe. I'm going to do this all in slow motion so you can see. I'm going to do a stroke with my toe, lift my foot, and then drop my foot. So toe, heel, toe. At first, this is probably going to feel ridiculously awkward, okay? And I remember when I first learned this technique, I literally went like, right, really slowly and very awkwardly, lifted my foot up too high, right, went too slow. It's really common to have one of those notes get flat on you so you don't even make a sound, right? Like, what's the one? Yeah, a lot of times that heel stroke is really confusing. But if you've practiced the leg stroke, the heel stroke should make sense. So what you're doing is combining that heel down and heel up motion into one. It's almost like when we were doing accents on the pad, but you don't want two different volumes. The goal here is right? The goal is as steady as you can get it. Okay, so another multiple stroke motion is what we call a slide. And there's a few different ways you can do this. You can either slide front to back or side to side or a little bit of both. Okay, so front to back is really obvious. Side to side likewise. And side to side almost can be more of a heel swivel. So the ball of my heel can stay in one place and my heel is swiveling. But the technique that I tend to use the most is one that I actually developed just from an exercise that my drum instructor gave me when I was younger. So the exercise was hold your leg in the air and play ankle strokes. So just play with your toe on the pedal using just your ankle. Try and hold your leg perfectly still. And what I found was that I would do several of those and then like a leg stroke as my last note. So let's say I want to do 1 E and a 2. I would do those toe strokes, those like leg up toe strokes, and then 2 would be a full leg stroke. So that's pretty much the basic foot motions I'm using. Let's run through a few really simple exercises just so you can see ways that you can work on them. We already did the first one. Let's do that. I'm going to play that just with kind of my neutral, the way I would play it if I was playing. So you can see how that'll work. So the first one is just 1/8 notes on the hi-hat, 1/8 notes on the bass drum, 2 and 4 on the snare drum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and you can see what I was saying, right? I'm pretty much just using my full leg stroke and just using my hip flexor and letting my leg just bounce, right? Okay, so next, I'm just gonna do 16th notes. So now, what's the foot pattern? So I'm gonna play my right hand and my right foot together, and then my right foot by itself, and that's gonna be the E. And then on the and, I'm gonna play the hi-hat and bass drum together, right hand and right foot together. And then on the my bass drum will play by itself. So let's do just that with no snare drum. So it's right hand and right foot together, right foot by itself, right hand and right foot together, right foot by itself. And so now we'll do 2 and 4 on the snare, same pattern. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. A little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can go back and forth between the 8th notes and 16th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And a little bit faster. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, in case it's not obvious, the 16th repeating pattern, that's a workout, right? That's why I have the second bass drum. No, kidding. That's actually a good, really short point. Even if you have a double pedal or a second bass drum, you should work hard on making your right foot as good as it would be as if you didn't have the second drum. The second drum or the second half of a double pedal should not be there for you to cheat on quick notes. It should be there for things that you can't do with one foot, okay? And there's always gonna be someone upping the ante with what you can do with one foot, but you at least want that line of where your right foot is to be reasonable, right? Until you can do, you know, what John Bonham was doing with his right foot, don't get the second bass drum. Okay, so those are the exercises that I found really helpful for just working with foot technique with a beat. The other one that I like a lot is we're gonna do 2 notes with our hands and 2 notes with our bass drum. So 1, 2, foot, foot, right, left, foot, foot. You wanna start slow, gradually speed up, and it's more important to keep it even than it is to play it fast, right? If you just try and rush through it, that second note of your bass drum is probably going to disappear, and you don't want that at all, right? You want this to be da 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 da, right? So start slow. Okay, so that's a really quick look at foot technique. There's a lot more to it, right? This is kind of an intro. I encourage you to try the heel up and slide and all those patterns with both the 8th notes and the 16th note exercises. you'll be amazed at how they work differently, right? So for toe heel, you can do the toe as the 16th note on the beat or off the beat. Likewise with the slide, you can have one side be the downbeat and then the other side be the downbeat. There's a million variations, ways to work with the bass drum pedal. And you'll find a technique that makes sense and works for you. But like I say, I encourage experimentation. Okay. The bass drum pedal really is a remarkable tool that we get to use, and it deserves its own serious study. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it for today. Like I say, today is just a kind of a basic intro. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. I would appreciate a like, a thumbs up on the video, and it would be great if you subscribe to the channel. If you really like me and want to be notified when I do new stuff, hit the little bell icon. You can catch me on Facebook and Instagram at Penny Larson Drums. And I'm currently doing a series called Your First Year of Drum Lessons, with new lessons dropping on Wednesday and Friday. And it'd be great to see you there too. Okay, so good luck with the bass drum technique. It's a lifelong battle. Okay, take care, you guys. Love you. Bye.